Jimmy Petruzzi with his speech title named A Moment Away. So, Jimmy Petruzzi.
I thought I had the world at my feet, in the sense that I was in my early 20s and I was travelling around Europe and the States, and I was running a practice or helping to manage a practice to work on people physically and mentally to prepare for top flight sport amongst the other areas. And I was working the creme de la creme in sport, for example, and some of the best athletes in the country, if not the world, and footballers, and the who's who. I had everything that anyone could ever wish for. It was a dream. I was in London, I travelled Europe and the States and the world, and things were going flying and things were great for me. I was competing in sport at a very high level. I was mentally and physically on it, and it was great. And I started doing a modular course at Loughborough University on sports performance conditioning. And then one morning I woke up, and for whatever reason, I thought maybe I had the flu or a cold, or maybe I slept the wrong way. And literally I got out of bed to go to the toilet, as you do, and I couldn't get there. And I was literally hovering like this to get there. And I thought, this is strange. It should wear off. It kind of eased off and came back sporadically. And I went to get it checked out, and no one had any answers. So I had this sort of remissive thing that would come and go, to the point when it hit me like a ton of bricks eventually. And I got to the point where I couldn't literally go from here to maybe the first row of seats. And that hit me hard, because it meant, cutting a long story short, I had to give a lot up at that point. My career, a lot of things, a lot of my friends, a lot of things happened in a short space of time, to the point where I literally nearly ended up living on the street. It was damn tough. It wasn't a good time to be around in that sense. Now, the point I'm trying to get at is that I spent a lifetime trying to get to where I was, and I stripped of my identity literally overnight. And it hit me hard, and I lost faith in the medical profession, because I felt that there was no answers. I'd gone for every test you could ever imagine. It was inconclusive. I was starting to try and pinpoint things and so on and so forth. And an alternative profession too, the alternative therapy, I'd lost faith in them, because I felt there was a queue of people trying to make a fast buck out of a vulnerable person. It was damn tough, and the weeks became months. The months started to go into a year or two, until eventually I sort of galvanized all my learnings in the field of psychology, the field of mental skills I've learned to apply as a sports person, transfer to sports people. And I galvanized myself, because I spent too many nights thinking, if I don't wake up in the morning, it probably won't be a bad thing. And that's a tragic thing to say, but I felt everything had been stripped away. And I went and I fell into what you might call a deep depression. And when I say deep depression, I don't say that lightheartedly. I felt every time I woke up in the morning was like, just imagine your whole family being wiped out. That's how bad it got. So I started drinking a lot, and the comorbidity around this condition was increasingly difficult, until I got to a point where I started doing my own research, and I stopped wanting the world to burn at that point. I thought, now I've got to start moving forward. And I had a goal, if I could just make it to the downstairs and upstairs, and that became, I'd measure the poles on the street, if I can walk to that pole, and I'd galvanized all the skills, and I started learning again. I started researching again. I passed the modular course that was at Loughborough, and then I started a lifelong learning journey, until eventually there was light at the end of the tunnel. As there was, it took a long time, it took its toll on me mentally. I would end up lecturing, and it gave me the first. I would go back into working in sport professionally, in professional football. I would go back into competing moderately, nothing like I was before. A lot of my goals and dreams were dashed at that point. But what it did make me realize is mental health. And mental health is a broad area. It started my lifelong learning journey. I'm still studying now. I'm studying now at one of the most prestigious universities in the world in mental health, and doing research, trying to learn more and more. And the reason for doing that is because I realize that there's still a lot we don't know. The nature-nurture debate is gone, long gone. Now we're sort of looking at, okay, our genes and the environment. They're the two big correlations. And I think it's really important that we start developing more tailored treatment. And I'm not saying or suggesting that conventional medicine, whatever, I'm not making any recommendations. I'm just saying, for me personally, we've still got a long way to go. Because the point being, I got to a point where a lot of, at least in the medical profession, was like, okay, take these tablets. And I'd read them and think, well, I have done some research and I'm learning that area. These aren't for me. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't take them. I felt for me, it might have an effect that would stop me doing the things I could do. There's a lot I couldn't do, a lot I could do. So I decided I was going to stick it out. And I'm not suggesting anyone to do what I did. So my journey into this realization and towards mental health anyway, and I think that now I've drawn many conclusions, and I do a lot of talks, I travel the world, and I'm in pretty damn good shape these days, but I don't take it for granted. But the point being is that for me, it's still underfunded in proportion to many other conditions. And there's a very high comorbidity in mental health, very high. There's a lot we don't know, there's a lot we do know, and we made a lot of big strides. So I urge people to be open as much as one can be open. And it's quite good that celebrities, because they have a big effect on people, have come out and talked about that. And it's a misunderstanding sometimes, because the person next to you may have a mental health issue without you even knowing it. I walk in this room and you can't, physically I can see you. If you've got a broken arm, a limb, or there are biomarkers for medical conditions like diabetes and cancer. Not that I'm a medically qualified person, but there's no biomarkers at the moment, at least what I know of in my study in the field of neuroscience, around many mental health conditions. And the spectrum is broad. Someone with, say, schizophrenia, for example, could be very functional and you'd never know. But someone could equally be in an institution and probably won't get to see the light of day. And that goes for a lot of conditions, and correlation is in the area. So what we do need to do is raise awareness. There's a lot of people out there that social avoidance, it affects them in many, many different ways. And I think the stigma around that, the fear that you'll be judged, you won't get that job, someone will look at you the same way again, is really crucial we break those barriers. So going forward for me, the areas I'm really focusing on now and want to focus on going forward are the role of cytokines going through the blood-brain barrier. I'm focusing on areas that I believe the genes and how they're affected, because it just takes one adverse event in life can change it dramatically. So I want to take away one thing, is have a think about it and realize that sometimes we might think we know a lot about that person, but until we speak to them, we don't quite know. And really, in the 21st century, I think that we need to push more for support and help in mental health. Thank you.